stared at the data pad in his three-fingered hand and felt nothing but boredom. Another assignment, another species to observe, another report to file. In his 20 cycles as a military analyst for the Galactic Council, he had documented over 40 different species and their combat methods. Most were predictable, some were clever, none were particularly impressive. The humans were supposed to be different, or so the Council claimed. Doubted it. He stood in the observation deck of the Council station, watching the human ship approach through the massive viewing window. The vessel was called the Defiant Dawn, and it looked as primitive as he expected. The hull was covered in mismatched armor plating. The weapon systems appeared outdated by at least 3 generations. The engine exhaust glowed an inefficient orange instead of the clean blue of modern drives. They only discovered faster-than-light travel 8 of their years ago, his assistant, said beside him. She was reading from her own data pad. There is classified as Category 9 hostile environment, high gravity, extreme weather patterns, abundant predator species. A death world, said, using the common term. That explains their physical build. He had reviewed the biological data. Humans were dense. Their bones were thick. Their muscles were packed tight. They could survive injuries that would kill most species in the coalition. But they were still small compared to races like the giants or the warriors. They have requested membership in the coalition defense fleet, continued. The Council wants to know if they are worth the investment. Flicked his tail in a gesture of mild amusement. They have 1 ship. What could they possibly offer? The Defiant Dawn docked with a heavy clang that shook the entire station. Skin rippled with annoyance. These humans didn't even know how to dock properly. He made a note on his pad about their poor technical skills. An hour later, stood in the briefing room and met the human commander for the first time. Captain was shorter than by half a meter. He had dark hair cut very short and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. When he smiled, his teeth showed. Knew this was a friendly gesture for humans, but it reminded him of a predator's warning. Observer said, extending his hand. Welcome aboard, we're honored to have you. Touched the hand briefly. Human skin was warm, almost hot. Their normal body temperature would give most species a fever. His hand quickly. I will be documenting your performance in the upcoming engagement, said. The Council has assigned your vessel to deal with a swarm presence in the Delta 7 system. Standard patrol action. Understood, said. My crew is ready. Studied the captain's face. There was no fear, no concern. Either this human was very confident or very stupid. Suspected the latter. The briefing continued. Met the senior staff. Lieutenant Park was the tactical officer. She was a young human female with sharp eyes and quick movements. When asked about her combat strategy, she simply said, "Hit them before they hit us." It was the most basic answer possible. Sergeant Bin commanded the Marine units. He was a large human male who laughed too much. When asked about his squad's training, Bin said, "We train to win." Another simple answer. These humans seemed to lack sophistication. The ship's doctor was a female named Song. She was quiet and seemed kind. At least this one showed some civilized behavior. The crew quarters they gave were small but functional. He had his own observation station with direct access to the ship's sensors and communication systems. He would be able to record everything without interfering. That was the role of an observer. Watch, document, do not engage. The Defiant Dawn departed the station 6 hours later, settled into his observation post and began recording. The ship moved through space at a steady pace. The crew performed their duties with reasonable efficiency. Nothing special, nothing remarkable. On the second day, decided to walk through the ship. He wanted to understand human culture better. The Council valued detailed reports. The first thing he noticed was the noise. Humans were loud, they talked constantly. They played music from speakers in every corridor. Some of it was aggressive and fast. Some was slow and sad. When he asked one crew member why they needed constant sound, the human just shrugged and said, "Silence is boring." The second thing he noticed was the food. The mess hall smelled like chemicals. He watched humans eat things that his own species would consider toxic. One crew member ate something called hot sauce, and his face turned red and water came from his eyes. When asked if he was injured, the human laughed and said, "No, it's good pain." Good pain, the concept made no sense. He also noticed how humans touched each other. They put hands on shoulders. They bumped fists together. They stood close when talking. His own species valued personal space. Humans seemed to need physical contact like they needed air. On the third day, they reached the Delta 7 system, returned to his observation post. The sensors picked up 3 cruisers near the asteroid belt, standard swarm formation. They were a known hostile species, not particularly dangerous. Their tactics were simple and direct. Expected captain to request coalition backup. That was protocol. 3 cruisers against 1 small human ship was poor odds. Instead's voice came over the ship's communication system. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. We have contact with hostile forces." The crew moved with practice speed. Watched them run to their positions. They were efficient. He would note that. Observer's voice came through his personal communicator. "You might want to hold on to something. This could get rough." "Captain, I recommend requesting support from the coalition fleet," replied. "You are outnumbered." There was a pause, then laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. "Observer, we didn't come here to run away. We came here to show you what humans can do." The ship's engines flared to full power. Felt the acceleration push him back into his seat. His concern grew. These humans were either brave or suicidal. He began to suspect it was both. The ships moved to intercept. Their weapons powered up. Standard attack pattern. Had seen it 100 times before. What happened next, he had never seen before. Captain ordered the ship to turn directly toward the largest cruiser. Full speed. No defensive maneuvers. Lieutenant began targeting the enemy weapons with precision strikes, but she wasn't aiming to destroy them. She was aiming to disable them. "Why not destroy the weapons?" asked over the communication link. His voice came back, cheerful despite the danger. "We might want to use them later." Use them, didn't understand, but he kept recording. The council would want to see this. The battle was about to begin and had a strange feeling in his chest. Something like fear, something like excitement. He didn't know which. He only knew that his boring assignment had suddenly become very interesting. The Defiant Dawn shook as the first plasma bolt struck the forward shields, gripped his observation station as alarms blared throughout the ship. His data pad showed shield strength dropping to 70%. The smart choice would be to retreat. Every tactical manual in the Coalition library said so. Captain did not retreat. "Engineering, cut power to the port engine," ordered calmly. His eyes widened. "Captain, what are you doing?" The ship lurched to the side as the port engine went dark. The Defiant Dawn began to spin slowly, looking like a wounded animal. The ships immediately changed their formation. They sensed an easy kill. "Observer, watch and learn," said. There was something in his voice. Not fear, not even concern, it was excitement. The 3 cruisers moved closer, forming a triangle around the seemingly damaged human ship. Checked his scanners. They were charging their main weapons. In 30 seconds, they would fire simultaneously. The Defiant Dawn would be destroyed. 20 seconds. "Sergeant Ben, are your Marines ready?" asked. "Born ready, Captain," came the cheerful reply. 10 seconds. "Launch all chaff pods," ordered. Watched his scanner as dozens of small objects shot out from the Defiant Dawn. They looked like standard defensive countermeasures. Metal and electronics designed to confuse enemy targeting systems. Nothing special. 5 seconds. The chaff pods flew toward all 3 ships. 3 seconds. The pods opened, but they didn't release chaff, they released humans. His jaw fell open. Inside each pod were 4 Marines in full combat armor, equipped with cutting tools and explosive charges. The chaff pods were assault shuttles. The humans had disguised their attack as a defensive move. "What kind of insane strategy is this?" whispered. The human Marines crashed into the hulls of all 3 ships simultaneously. They cut through the outer armor with plasma torches. They moved with frightening speed. Within seconds, they had breached all 3 vessels. The ships stopped their attack. Their commanders were confused. They had intruders inside their own ships. Protocol demanded they deal with internal threats first. That was their mistake. The Defiant Dawn's port engine roared back to life. The ship had never been damaged. It had all been a trick. Captain brought the ship around and opened fire on the nearest cruiser. The shots were precise. They hit the weapon systems, the engine controls, the shield generators. "Disable, don't destroy," ordered her weapons crew. "We want those ships intact." Inside the vessels, Sergeant Bin and his Marines were fighting. Watched through the helmet cameras that the humans had agreed to share with him. What he saw disturbed him deeply. The humans didn't fight like coalition soldiers. Coalition doctrine taught clean kills, quick and efficient, minimal suffering. The goal was to neutralize the enemy and move on. Humans fought differently. They shouted while they fought. They called out to each other constantly. "On your left, watch the door, grenade out." They communicated in rapid bursts. They moved like they shared one mind. But that wasn't what disturbed. What disturbed him was that they were learning while fighting. One Marine took a hit from an energy weapon. He went down hard, but before his squad mates pulled him to safety, another Marine grabbed the weapon and examined it. "This uses a different frequency than ours," the Marine said. "We can adjust our shields." They were studying enemy technology in the middle of combat. Another Marine team reached the bridge. Instead of killing the crew immediately, they forced them to surrender. Then, while half the team secured the prisoners, the other half began downloading data from the ship's computers. "We're getting their patrol routes," Sergeant Bin reported, "and their communication codes, and their supply line information." "Good work," Captain replied. "Package it up and get out." The entire assault lasted 12 minutes. By the time it was over, the humans had killed 43 and captured 72 more. They had stolen 3 ships' worth of intelligence data, and they had lost only 2 Marines. But those 2 Marines had not died quietly. Watch the recording of Private's final moments. The young human male had been surrounded by 5 warriors. He was wounded. His armor was breached. He couldn't escape. Instead of surrendering, had detonated his remaining grenades. He killed himself and all 5 enemies. His last words over the communication channel were, "Make it count." "Why did he do that?" asked Dr. Song later. She was in the medical bay treating the wounded. Her hands moved quickly as she sealed a Marine's chest wound. "Do what?" asked without looking up. "Private, he killed himself rather than surrender." Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "He made a choice. He could let the enemy take him and possibly learn about our tactics, or he could make sure they learned nothing. He chose to protect his squad." "But he died," said. "Yes," agreed, "but his squad survived. That's what mattered to him." Didn't understand. Individual survival should be the primary goal. That was logical. That was rational. Humans weren't rational. The next disturbing thing happened during the interrogation of prisoners. Watched as Song treated their wounds. She was gentle. She gave them water. She made sure they were comfortable. "Why are you being kind to them?" asked. "They tried to kill you." Smiled. It was a cold smile. "Because when they're comfortable, they talk, and I want to know everything about their fleet movements." Realized the kindness was a tactic. The humans were manipulating the prisoners emotionally to get information. It was effective. It was also cruel in a way that direct interrogation was not. The commander was brought before Captain on the bridge. The alien was injured but alive. He looked at with hatred in his multiple eyes. "You fight without honor," the commander said. "You use tricks and deception." Nodded, "Yes." "You are cowards." His expression didn't change. "Maybe, but we won." The commander made a sound like grinding metal. It was their version of a laugh. "This was one battle. The swarm will send more ships, bigger ships. You cannot trick us forever." Leaned forward, his face was very serious. "Good, send more ships. We'll learn from them too. Every time you attack us, we get better. Every weapon you use, we study. Every tactic you try, we adapt. You want to keep fighting? Fine. But understand this, we don't just want to win this battle. We want to learn how to win every battle after it." The commander's eyes showed something new, something recognized. "Fear." "You are monsters," the commander whispered. Smiled, "No, we're human, there's a difference." Left the bridge and returned to his observation station. His hands were shaking. He began to write his preliminary report to the council. Subject: immediate concern regarding human combat doctrine. The humans do not fight to achieve victory in the traditional sense. They fight to gather intelligence. They fight to learn. They fight to prepare for future conflicts. This is unprecedented in my experience. They use deception as a primary tactic. They sacrifice individual safety for group success. They show kindness to enemies as a form of manipulation. They study while fighting. They adapt in real time. Most concerning, they enjoy it. I observed crew members smiling during combat. I heard laughter over communication channels while under fire. One Marine called the battle fun. Recommendation: further observation required before any conclusion can be made. He paused before sending the report. Something told him the council would not believe him. They would think he was exaggerating. They would say one battle was not enough to judge an entire species. But had seen enough. These humans were dangerous, not because they were strong, not because they were numerous, but because they approached war like it was a school and every enemy was a teacher. The Defiant Dawn resumed course deeper into the contested zone. Captain had ordered the ship to continue patrol. They were looking for more enemies. They were looking for more lessons. Realized with growing horror that his observation assignment was far from over. And worse, he realized he was afraid of what he might see next. The distress call came 3 days after the first battle. Was in his quarters, reviewing footage of the Marine assault for the 100th time, when alarms blared throughout the ship. "All hands to battle stations," Captain's voice echoed through the corridors. "We have multiple contacts incoming. This is not a drill." Rushed to his observation post. His scanner display made his blood run cold. 15 ships were approaching. Not scouts, not cruisers. These were warships. Heavy assault vessels with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Captain said urgently over the communication link, "You must retreat. Request coalition backup immediately. You cannot fight this many ships." "We'll see about that," replied. His voice was calm, too calm. "This is suicide," insisted. "Maybe," said, "but it'll be interesting. Observer, I suggest you document everything. The council will want to see this." The Defiant Dawn turned and accelerated toward an asteroid field. Felt his stomach twist. Asteroid fields were dangerous. Ships could be damaged by debris. Sensors became unreliable. It was the last place any sane commander would go during a battle. But was starting to understand that human commanders were not sane. "Engineering, this is the captain," said. "Is our surprise ready?" "Ready and waiting, sir," came the response. It was engineer. He sounded excited. "What surprise?" asked. No one answered him. The Defiant Dawn entered the asteroid field at full speed. Pilot Sorahan flew the ship between massive space rocks with precision that should have been impossible. watched the distances on his scanner. Sometimes they passed asteroids with less than 10 meters of clearance on each side. "How is she flying like this?" whispered. Lieutenant glanced at him from her tactical station. "Sora has the fastest reflexes in the fleet, plus she says she loves a challenge." "This is beyond challenging. This is insane." Grinned, "Yeah, that's why she volunteered." The ships entered the asteroid field behind them. They were larger and moved more slowly. They had to be careful. One collision could cripple their shields. "Now engineer," Captain ordered. Scanners suddenly showed dozens of new contacts throughout the asteroid field. They weren't asteroids. They were machines, mining drones, ore haulers, construction mechs, all the equipment from an abandoned mining colony that had been left in this field years ago. The humans had weaponized them. Mining lasers, designed to cut through rock, now targeted shield generators. Ore haulers, massive and heavy, were set on collision courses with enemy ships. Construction mechs, equipped with industrial cutting tools, latched onto hulls and began tearing through armor. "We found this equipment 2 days ago," his voice came over the communication system. "Took us about 6 hours to reprogram everything. Not bad, right?" The fleet tried to fight back. They fired their weapons at the mining drones, but for every drone they destroyed, 2 more appeared. The humans had scattered hundreds of modified machines throughout the field. "This is not standard military equipment," said. He was recording everything, but his hands were shaking. "You're using civilian tools as weapons." "Humans use everything as weapons," said. She was focused on her tactical display. "We're very creative that way." One warship tried to escape the asteroid field. Pilot Sorahan brought the Defiant Dawn around in a tight turn that should have torn the ship apart from the G-forces. Felt his body press hard against his seat. His vision started to go dark. But the humans kept working. They didn't even seem affected. "How are you withstanding this acceleration?" gasped. "We train in high-G environments." Sora's voice came through the communication system. She sounded cheerful. "Most species can handle about 4 Gs before passing out. Humans can handle 9, and I'm wearing a special suit that lets me push to 12. 12 times normal gravity. Couldn't imagine it. The pressure would crush most species." The Defiant Dawn intercepted the fleeing ship. Weapons Officer 1 launched a missile. It missed the target by 50 meters. "You missed," said. "Did I?" one asked. The missile curved back around. It was under manual control. One was flying the missile like a remote drone. It approached the ship from behind and struck the engine directly. "They never expect round 2, one said with a laugh. The warship went dark, dead in space. Another ship tried to ram the Defiant Dawn. A desperate move, but Sergeant Bin's Marines were ready. They launched from the ship in individual rocket packs and attached magnetic explosives to the enemy hull as it passed. 3 seconds later, the explosives detonated. The ship broke in half. Watched Marines float in open space, surrounded by debris and fire. They were laughing. He could hear them over the communication channel. They were laughing while floating in vacuum, having just destroyed a ship 10 times larger than themselves. "This is wrong," muttered. "This is all wrong." "What's wrong?" Captain asked. He had heard the comment. "You're enjoying this. Your crew is enjoying this. People are dying and you're having fun." Was quiet for a moment. "Observer, do you know what humans do when we're scared?" "No." "We laugh, we make jokes, we act like nothing bothers us. It's how we cope. If we let fear control us, we freeze. If we freeze, we die. So we laugh instead." "That makes no sense." "Probably not," agreed, "but it works." The battle continued for 2 hours. By the end, 8 warships were destroyed. 4 were disabled and captured. 3 managed to escape, their hulls damaged and their crews terrified. The Defiant Dawn had taken heavy damage. Hull breaches on 3 decks. Shield generators were offline. The port engine was actually damaged this time, not just pretending. But the crew was celebrating. Walked through the corridors and saw humans embracing each other, slapping each other on the back, drinking something called coffee which smelled terrible. They were happy. 6 crew members had died in the battle. 16 were injured. The ship was barely functional. And they were happy. Dr. Song was working in the medical bay. She had been operating for hours without rest. Her hands were covered in blood. Human blood, blood. It didn't matter. She treated everyone. "Why do you save enemy wounded?" asked her. Didn't look up from her work. "Because that's what doctors do." "But they're your enemies." "Right now, they're my patients." She finished sealing a leg wound and moved to the next bed. Besides, wounded enemies can provide information. Dead enemies tell us nothing. Even the doctor thought tactically. Everything was calculated. Everything had a purpose. Left the medical bay and found Captain on the bridge. The captain was reviewing damage reports with his senior staff. "We need to return to Coalition space for repairs," said. "Your ship is badly damaged." Looked at him. "The ship will hold together. We're continuing the mission." "What mission? You've driven off the presence in this sector." "No," said quietly. "I've sent a message. 3 ships escaped. They'll report what happened here. They'll tell their commanders that humans don't run away, that humans turn civilian equipment into weapons, that humans fight in asteroid fields and laugh while doing it." Felt cold understanding wash over him. "You let them escape on purpose." "Of course," said. "Fear is a weapon too. The more they fear us, the less likely they are to attack again. And if they do attack, they'll be nervous. Nervous enemies make mistakes." "You're not just fighting a battle," said slowly. "You're fighting a war that hasn't even started yet." Smiled. "Now you're beginning to understand." That night sat in his quarters and wrote another report to the council. His hands shook as he typed. Subject: urgent reassessment of human threat level. Humans do not view individual battles as separate events. They view all combat as part of a larger strategic picture. They use psychological warfare. They weaponize fear. They turn defeats into victories by controlling the narrative. They do not fight fair. They do not follow accepted rules of engagement. They adapt faster than any species I have observed. New recommendation: humanity must be accepted into the coalition immediately, not as junior members, not as probationary allies, as full partners with complete military autonomy. Because if we make them our enemies, we will lose. He sent the report and waited for a response. The council sent back a single line: "Your recommendations are noted. Continue observation." Put his head in his hands. The council didn't understand. They thought he was overreacting. They thought one observer watching one ship couldn't possibly understand the full picture. But did understand, and that understanding filled him with regret. He had asked for this assignment. He had thought it would be easy. Document some primitive species and file a simple report. Instead, he had witnessed something that would haunt him forever. He had seen what humans were capable of when they fought, and he knew, with absolute certainty, that the galaxy was not ready for it. Couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the battle replaying, the explosions, the humans laughing, the way they turned mining equipment into weapons, the way they fought like every battle was just practice for the next one. He needed answers. He needed to understand why humans were the way they were. The next morning went to the medical bay. Dr. Song was there, reviewing patient files. She looked tired but smiled when she saw him. "Observer," she said, "are you hurt?" "No," replied. "I came to ask you questions about humans, about why you fight the way you do." Gestured to a chair. "Sit, I'll try to help." Sat down. He pulled out his data pad. "I've been watching your crew for weeks now. I've seen things that don't make sense. Humans laugh during combat. You sacrifice yourselves for each other. You take terrible risks. Why? Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Do you know what a death world is?" "Yes, a planet with hostile environment and dangerous predators." "Earth is more than hostile," said softly. "Everything on Earth tried to kill us. The weather, the animals, the diseases, even the plants were dangerous. We evolved in a place where every day was a fight to survive." "Many species evolved in difficult environments," said. "But we were weak," continued. "We weren't the strongest. We weren't the fastest. We didn't have claws or fangs or armor. We survived by being clever, by working together, by refusing to give up even when everything said we should." She pulled up a file on her computer. "Let me show you something." The screen showed human history. Wars, thousands of wars. Humans fighting each other with sticks, with swords, with guns, with bombs that could destroy entire cities. "We nearly killed ourselves," said. "We developed weapons that could end all life on our planet, and we came very close to using them. Some wars we did use them." Stared at the images. "You survived your own weapons." "Barely," said. "We learned from it. We learned that working together was the only way to survive. We learned that our greatest enemy was ourselves. Once we understood that, we stopped fighting each other and started looking to the stars." "But you still fight," said. "Yes, because we're good at it. We had 10,000 years of practice fighting on Earth. We know every dirty trick, every strategy, every way to turn weakness into strength." "Thought about this. You said humans laugh during combat. Why?" Smiled sadly. "Because if we didn't laugh, we'd cry. Fear is natural, death is natural, but we can't let those things stop us. So we make jokes. We act brave even when we're terrified. It's how we cope." "That seems inefficient." "Maybe," agreed, "but it works. A scared soldier freezes. A soldier who's laughing can still fight." Over the next few days, interviewed more crew members. Each conversation made him understand humans a little better, and each conversation made him more afraid of them. He spoke with Private Sim, a young Marine who had survived the asteroid field battle, showed him human entertainment, movies about wars, books about impossible victories, songs about fighting until the last breath. "This is what you watch for fun?" asked. "Sure," said. "We like stories about underdogs, people who win even when they shouldn't." "Why?" "Thought about it. Because that's us. Humans are always the underdog. We're small, we're weak, we're new to space, but we don't let that stop us. We like stories that remind us we can win anyway." Looked at the story was reading. It was about 300 soldiers fighting against thousands of enemies. They all died, but they held long enough for their people to escape. "This is a sad story," said. "They lose." "No," said firmly. "They win. They saved their people. That's what matters." Didn't understand. Victory meant survival. How could death be victory? He brought this question to Captain one evening. They were in the captain's office. The room was small but comfortable. On the wall was a picture of Earth. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from space. Captain said, "Why do humans celebrate sacrifice? When someone dies for others, you call them heroes, but they're dead, they lost." Looked at the picture of Earth for a long moment. "Do you know what the word humanity means, observer?" "It's your species' name." "It's more than that. It's a philosophy. Being human means caring about more than yourself. It means protecting the weak. It means standing up to bullies. It means fighting for what's right even when it's hard." "That sounds inefficient," said. Laughed. "It is very inefficient, but it's who we are." He pulled up a file on his computer. "Let me tell you about someone. His name was Sung Park. He was a Marine on one of our colony ships. 10 years ago, that ship was attacked by pirates. They wanted to take the colonists as slaves." Listened carefully. "Sung was in the engine room when the pirates boarded," continued. "He could have escaped, could have hidden. Instead, he sealed himself in the engine room and overloaded the reactor. He destroyed the ship, killed all the pirates, saved 300 colonists. He killed himself, said. Yes, but those 300 colonists lived. They built a colony. They had children. Those children are growing up safe because Sung made a choice. One life for 300, calculated, mathematically sound. It's not about math, said quietly. It's about meaning. Sung's life had meaning because he chose to protect others. That's what makes us human. Was beginning to understand. Humans didn't value individual survival above all else. They valued the survival of the group, the species, the idea. It was alien, it was strange. It was terrifyingly effective. Later that week, spoke with the ship's psychologist, Doctor. She was a small human female with kind eyes and a gentle voice. Her office was filled with books and plants. Observer, she said warmly. I've been hoping you'd visit. You must have many questions about us. I do, admitted. I don't understand human emotion. You feel things so strongly. Anger, joy, love, hate. It seems to control you. Shook her head. No, we control it, that's the difference. We feel emotions deeply, yes, but we choose how to use them. How? Anger makes us fight harder. Fear makes us more careful. Love makes us protect each other. We turn emotion into fuel for action. She pulled a book from her shelf. There's an old Earth saying, if you're going through hell, keep going. It means that even in the worst situations, you don't give up. You use the pain, you use the fear, you turn it into strength and you keep moving forward. That sounds painful, said. It is, agreed. But pain teaches us. Every scar is a lesson. Every loss is a reminder to do better next time. What about spite? Asked. He had heard humans use this word. Smiled. Ah, spite is special. It means doing something just to prove others wrong. It means suffering through difficulty just to show you can. It's not logical, but it's very human. Give me an example. Well, said, before we had faster-than-light travel, most alien species said it was impossible. They said humans were too primitive, too stupid. We spent 50 years developing the technology just to prove them wrong. We suffered. We failed. People died in the experiments, but we kept going because we wanted to show the galaxy what humans could do. You suffered for pride. We suffered for dignity, corrected. We wanted respect. We wanted to be seen as equals, so we worked until we earned it. Left that conversation feeling deeply unsettled. Humans weren't just warriors. They weren't just survivors. They were something else entirely. That night he reviewed all his recordings, all his notes, all his observations. Humans fought with joy and celebrated sacrifice. They turned civilian tools into weapons and mining equipment into armies. They laughed in the face of death and used fear as a tactical advantage. But underneath all of that was something deeper, something that scared more than their tactics or their weapons. Humans cared. They cared so deeply about each other, about their cause, about their species, that they would endure any suffering, accept any sacrifice, fight any battle. And that made them unstoppable. Wrote in his personal journal, I understand now why humans are dangerous. It's not their strength. It's not their intelligence. It's their capacity to care. They love so fiercely that they'll die for each other. They believe so strongly in their cause that they'll fight until their last breath. You can't negotiate with that. You can't reason with that. You can only hope you never have to face it as an enemy. The Defiant Dawn continued its patrol. More battles were coming. Knew that now. And he dreaded what he would see next. The final battle came without warning. The Defiant Dawn had been patrolling the outer rim of the Delta 7 system when the distress call arrived. A coalition science station was under attack. The swarm had sent their command fortress, a massive structure, half warship and half military base, capable of destroying entire fleets. We need to help them, Captain said immediately. Lieutenant looked at her tactical display. Captain, that fortress has 60 warships defending it, plus the station's own defenses. We're one ship. I know the math, said quietly. But those are our people dying down there. We don't abandon our people. Felt something cold in his chest. Captain, this is suicide. Even for humans, this is impossible. Looked at him. There was something in the captain's eyes. Not anger, not fear, just determination. Observer, you wanted to document how humans fight. You're about to see exactly what we're capable of. I suggest you record everything. The Defiant Dawn accelerated toward the fortress at maximum speed. On the way, Captain opened a channel to the entire crew. All hands, this is the captain. I'm not going to lie to you. This mission is dangerous. Maybe the most dangerous thing any of us will ever do. The odds are against us. We might not make it back. There was silence on the ship. Then continued. But there are 200 scientists on that station. 200 people who came out here to study the stars, to learn, to make the galaxy better. They don't have weapons. They don't have warships. They only have us. Still silence. So here's what I'm asking. I'm asking you to be human. I'm asking you to show the galaxy what we do when our people need help. I'm asking you to fight like only humans can fight. The silence broke, heard cheering over the communication channels. The crew was volunteering, all of them, even the ones who were injured, even the ones who were scared. They were going to fight. The battle plan was insane. Listened to explain it and couldn't believe what he was hearing. We're going to split the crew, said. Half stays on the Defiant Dawn, half goes with the landing parties. We hit the fortress from 3 directions at once, overwhelm their response, create chaos. 3 directions, asked. You only have 1 ship. Sergeant Bin grinned. His face was painted with black and green camouflage. We'll make more ships. We're good at improvising. The Defiant Dawn approached the battle zone. The fortress was enormous. It hung in space like a metal moon, surrounded by warships. Energy weapons fired constantly at the science station's shields. Pilot Sara, get us close, ordered. The ship dove toward the fortress. Weapons fire filled the space around them. Shields flashed as they took hits. The ship shook with each impact. Sara flew like she was dancing. The ship twisted and turned through impossible angles. Felt the G-forces crushing him into his seat. His vision started to blur. Launching first landing team, Sergeant Bin reported. Watched on his scanner as assault shuttles shot from the Defiant Dawn. But they weren't heading for the fortress. They were heading for the warships. They're boarding the enemy ships again, said. Not boarding, corrected, stealing. The human Marines crashed into a cruiser. They fought their way to the bridge, killed the crew, and took control of the ship. Within 10 minutes, the humans had stolen 3 warships and were using them to attack the other vessels. This is impossible, whispered. You can't learn to fly alien ships that quickly. Engineer's voice came over the communication system. We studied the ships we captured in the first battle. We know how they work. The controls are a bit weird, but nothing we can't handle. Nothing they can't handle. They had stolen enemy warships and were flying them in combat like it was normal. The second landing team launched toward the fortress itself, was assigned to go with them. He didn't want to. He wanted to stay on the Defiant Dawn where it was safe. But Captain had ordered him to document everything. So he climbed into an assault shuttle piloted by O, a female Marine with a reputation for aggressive flying. Hold on, observer, said cheerfully. This is going to be rough. The shuttle launched from the ship and immediately came under fire, flew in a spiral pattern, dodging energy bolts that would have vaporized them. She was singing, actually singing while flying through a battlefield. Why are you singing? Asked, gripping his seat. Helps me concentrate, replied. Plus, if I'm going to die, I want to die happy. They crashed into the fortress hull. Cutting tools melted through the metal. The Marines poured inside, weapons ready. What witnessed in the next hour would stay with him forever. The humans fought through the fortress corridors with terrifying efficiency. They moved in teams. They covered each other. They called out targets and threats constantly. But they also used tactics that made skin crawl. When they found wounded, the humans didn't kill them. They left them alive but visible. They would call for help. When their reinforcements came, the humans ambushed them. When the fortress defenders tried to use their own wounded as bait, the humans didn't fall for it. They threw stun grenades around corners. They used mirrors to see around edges. They had learned from watching the try to trap them. Corporal Sung Han led a team deeper into the fortress. They reached the main reactor room. The entrance was heavily defended, 12 warriors with heavy weapons. "We need to destroy that reactor," Sung said. "It powers their shields. Without it, the station can escape." "We can't get past those defenders," another Marine said. Sung was quiet for a moment, then he smiled. "Yes, we can. Cover me." Before anyone could stop him, Sung ran directly at the defenders. He was firing his weapon, but he wasn't trying to hit them. He was drawing their fire. They shot him multiple times. His armor sparked and cracked, but he kept running. He reached the reactor door and placed explosives on it. His hands moved quickly despite his wounds. He set the timer. 30 seconds. "Sung, get out of there," someone shouted over the communication channel. "Can't," Sung replied. His voice was weak. "They damaged my legs, can't run." 20 seconds. "We're coming for you." "No," Sung said firmly. "Get the civilians out, that's the mission. I'll make sure this thing blows." 10 seconds. Watch through the helmet camera. Sung was sitting against the wall. Blood was leaking from his armor, but he was smiling. "Tell my family I love them," Sung said, "and tell the captain it was an honor." 5 seconds. The communication channel cut out. The reactor exploded. The entire fortress shook. Lights went out. Emergency systems failed. The shields collapsed. "Sung Han is down," someone reported. The voice was flat, emotionless, but could hear the pain underneath. "Honor his sacrifice," Sergeant Bin said. "Complete the mission, get those civilians out." The Marines moved faster. They fought harder. One of their own had died, and they were using that pain as fuel. They reached the docking bay where shuttles were preparing to evacuate. The humans attacked without mercy. They needed those shuttles for the civilians. The battle was brutal. Close quarters, no room for tactics, just raw fighting. And the humans won. They captured 12 shuttles and began evacuating the science station. The civilians were terrified. Many were injured, but the humans treated them gently, protected them, got them to safety. Helped carry a wounded scientist to a shuttle. The scientist was from his own species, a researcher. "Thank you," the researcher whispered. "Thank you." "Thank the humans," said. "They're the ones fighting." The evacuation took 40 minutes. The fortress was falling apart. Fires burned through the corridors. Structural supports were collapsing. "All teams, this is Captain," came the announcement. "Fortress is going critical. Get out now." The Marines pulled back. They ran through corridors filled with smoke and fire. Some carried wounded comrades. Some carried captured equipment. They took everything they could learn from. Even while retreating, they were studying. The last shuttle launched just as the fortress exploded. The blast was massive. It lit up space like a small sun. 200 scientists were saved. 43 humans had died, including Corporal Sung Han. The Defiant Dawn limped back to Coalition space. The ship was barely functional. Hull breaches on every deck. Both engines damaged. Life support failing in some sections. But the crew was celebrating. Couldn't understand it. They had lost so many people. The ship was destroyed. They would need months of repairs. Why were they celebrating? He found Captain on the bridge. The captain was staring out at the stars. He looked tired, sad, but also satisfied. "Captain," said, "I don't understand. You lost 43 crew members. How can you celebrate?" Turned to look at him. "We saved 200 people, observer. 200 lives that would have been lost. That's worth celebrating. But your people died. Yes, said softly, they did, and we'll remember them, we'll honor them, we'll tell their stories so they're never forgotten, but we'll also celebrate what they achieved. They died doing something that mattered. They died protecting others. That's the most human thing there is. Felt something in his chest, a weight, a burden. It was regret. He had been assigned to observe humans in combat, to document their capabilities, to assess their worthiness for the coalition. But he had failed to understand the most important thing about them. Humans didn't fight for honor. They didn't fight for glory. They didn't fight for territory or resources. They fought for each other, for strangers they had never met, for principles they believed in, for a future they might never see. They fought because they cared, and that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Wrote his final report that night. His hands were steady now. He knew what he had to say. Subject: Final assessment of human combat capabilities. I have observed the human vessel Defiant Dawn for 6 weeks. I have witnessed 4 major engagements. I have interviewed dozens of crew members. I have studied their tactics, their weapons, their psychology. My conclusion: humanity must be granted immediate and full membership in the Galactic Coalition. They must be given complete military autonomy. They must be treated as equal partners. Not because they are strong, not because they are clever, but because we cannot afford to make them our enemies. Humans approach warfare as a science. Every battle is a lesson. Every enemy is a teacher. They adapt faster than any species I have observed. They turn weakness into strength. They weaponize everything. They fight with emotions that fuel their bodies and minds. Most importantly, they fight for each other. This makes them willing to accept casualties that would break other species. They see death as an acceptable price for victory. They celebrate sacrifice. They honor their dead by continuing to fight. If humanity turns against the coalition, we will lose, not because they are superior warriors, but because they will never stop fighting. They will learn from every defeat. They will adapt to every strategy. They will sacrifice everything to win. I was assigned to observe humans in combat. I documented their tactics. I recorded their battles. I interviewed their crew. But I failed to understand until it was too late. I failed to see that humans don't just fight to win. They fight to ensure no one ever forgets what happens when you threaten them. I regret every moment I spent believing we could control them. I regret not recognizing their potential sooner. I regret that I had to see so many of them die to understand what they truly are. Humanity is not ready for the galaxy. The galaxy is not ready for humanity. We must make them our allies. We must earn their loyalty, because the alternative is too terrible to imagine. This is Observer signing off. He sent the report and closed his data pad. The Defiant Dawn continued toward Coalition headquarters. Captain had been summoned to present his mission report to the Council, would be there too, to testify, to explain what he had seen. On his desk was a drawing made by the captain's daughter. It showed humans and aliens standing together, holding hands, smiling. The caption read, "We fight so hard because we love so hard." Finally understood. Humans were terrifying in combat, but they were fighting for something beautiful. They fought to protect, to defend, to ensure that love could exist in a dangerous galaxy. And that, more than anything else, was what made them truly unstoppable.